So these stretches will help with that. For the first one, have the palms of your hands.
Today, I'm going to be reacting to some social media drills, giving you my likes, dislikes, whether or not I think that it's effective, a good use of your time, a complete waste of your time, and everything in between that. If you guys haven't seen part 1 of this, make sure you check it out after this video because you guys really seem to enjoy that. We're coming back here with a part 2. Let's get into it. So here we have like differential learning when it comes to shooting. I love these concepts. I think it's a really crucial thing that I think players and coaches should understand, which is just what differential learning is and how it kind of applies. You don't have to know necessarily the ins and outs of it. All that it is really is just the idea that in order to get the most out of your training or out of your practice, we want to get reps without getting reps, meaning in a game, every rep that you take is going to be a little bit different. Where you are on the floor is going to be different. The type of shot you're going to shoot, how good or bad the pass is, how good or bad your feet might be when they're set, where the defenders are, like is someone chasing you, do you have time, do you not have time? Everything's a little bit different. So by practicing that and differential learning, the concept with that is just every rep is different, right? So you'll see like right here, okay, footwork's a little bit off on the catch right there. You don't know when you're going to catch it. And now here's another rep of the same drill where the feet are different. So we're working on that ability to make shots even when there's differences from rep to rep, which if you actually watch the game and you look at the details, you'll notice that like Steph's feet are not the same every single time, right? The best shooters in the world are able to handle the fact that, hey, my feet aren't going to be perfect and I can still make that shot, right? So, and a drill like this, a concept like this is a great way to work on that. I do stuff like this all the time with my players. So I'm a big fan of differential learning right here. Okay, so right here, here's kind of going to be a point that I make in a few of these videos, I'm sure, today. You can look at this and have whatever opinion you want. At the end of the day, the question is this the best use of time? Like, is this the best bang for your buck? You can pretty much do anything, and it's going to get you at least marginally better. You can go out and do the worst drills in the world, like quote-unquote worst drills ever, and if you have a ball in your hands and you're, like, practicing, you're going to get at least slightly better, right? The question is, how much better could you get if you were doing something that was more effective? And I think that's what this is right here. Like, none of this to me is super accurate or conducive to like a game success, especially if you're somebody who already has like a firm grasp on how to shoot a basketball. Like you're beyond like a very, very novice level. To me, it's just a major waste of time when you could be doing things that are probably going to be way more effective. Like I just mentioned in the last video we looked at, the concept of differential learning or being able to adapt shot to shot. Nothing about this is adaptable or training you to be able to make shots in games right here. So again, aside from maybe like a super novice level of not really understanding what goes into shooting or the motion of shooting at all, outside of that, like it's just not something that I would ever do. And I think there's just way better uses of time than this. V dribble crosses. I do a lot of like stuff with the wide V's, so I'm a fan of this. Pocket pulls. I honestly, with a lot of my groups, like with my younger groups and then my middle school groups, and even with my high school groups too, like we spend a ton of time working on like pocket pulls, pocket dribbles, all that sort of stuff. So I'm a huge fan of being able to manipulate the ball like that. So a fan of that as well. I like the change of pace stuff too. I think that there's a lot of like people want to like demonize stationary ball handling. I think that's a becoming more and more of a thing. And there's obviously people at both ends of the spectrum. You have some trainers who are like, oh yeah, like stationary is like the best. Like I do it all the time. You have other trainers who are like, we never use stationary ball handling ever because you're never stationary in a game. We should just put defense on the floor the whole time. That's the only way to get better at ball handling, or the best way. That's what I was saying earlier, the best use of your time. And you have both sides of that right there. I think there's, if what you're doing has a purpose, I think that's really what it comes down to. If you want to know whether or not the drills you're doing are good or not good, ask yourself, is there a purpose behind what I'm doing? Or am I just doing something because, someone told me that it's good? But if you can actually answer the question of why am I doing this, then there's a chance that it might be a waste of your time right there. So, obviously, I think in that regard, we want to make sure that, the stuff we're doing is purposeful. And I think when I look at like some of these things that Shane's doing here, like the V dribble, okay, we're working on being able to get the ball across your body and handling the ball. Pocket pulls, being able to like manipulate that ball, put it into your pocket. Okay, I can pass out of that. I can change directions out of that. I can, do whatever. I can move out of that. as well, there's purpose there, right? The change of pace up is purpose there. So in that case, I think stationary ball handling can be really, really good. So I'm a fan for sure. Okay, so here we have like, this is what I would say is like the opposite side of stationary ball handling, where I'm like, to me, like this is a waste of time, because like this is not going to get you handles like Kyrie Irving. I'll say that right now. Again, if you're like a beginner, I can understand it, right? But to me, it's like what I was saying earlier. There's just way better uses of time than like the ball wraps and the slaps and, you know, all that sort of stuff right there. To me, like that has nothing to do with, hey, can you handle the ball when someone is pressuring you, trying to take the ball away from you? Hey, when you get trapped, can you handle the ball? When someone's guarding you full court, can you handle yourself, right? If it's you and a defender in front of you, are you good enough with the ball? Are you good enough as a mover to get by them, to create something right here? To me, this isn't really going to move that needle. And again, let's say this might not even be that much, right? This might be 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, right? I think there's so many things you can do that are better with your time than this, if we're going to talk stationary ball handling. So that's kind of the end of the spectrum of stationary ball handling that I don't agree with, because to me, there's just not a purpose behind it. It's just you're just kind of doing it because that's what we grew up seeing. Like as a kid, like everyone did drills like this. To me, as we continue to progress forward and we get better and we have more film, we can break things down more, people look at things differently, we should be able to update and say, hey, what we were doing back then is still good, or we can look at it and say, hey, maybe we can find better things. To me, this is something that we can look at and say, hey, we can find better things to do than this. Okay. So I like something like this if it's like a race. Personally, when I look at stuff like this, I don't really view it as like a way to get better at defense, because it's a completely different skill as it's being worked on right here than it would be in a game, right? Like this sort of like slow slide, like to me, I just don't see how it translates at all, right? Again, playing defense, it's a lot like ball handling. You can do all the drills in the world and you can look great doing it. If you can't be put on the court with pressure on you, with strong physical players trying to take the ball from you, your ball handling drills don't matter. They don't matter at all. I don't care how much time you spend doing your stationary ball handling. If you can't get on the floor and you can't handle yourself, you can't do what you want to do, you're not confident with the basketball, then what you've been doing is not good, right? That's ultimately what it comes down to. When I look at this, I can look at someone and say, okay, you're working on defense, but can I put you on the floor and can you go get a stop, right? To me, if I was going to work on defense, right, let's say with like my team or whatever, the best way to work on defense is to play defense. I don't think it gets any better than that, right? There are a lot of skills I think you can work on by yourself. And defense you can to an extent, but I just think that the best use of time if you really want to get better defense is go guard somebody, right? Ideally, go guard somebody who's quicker than you. And then, if you want to throw in like you're doing like obviously you're working on becoming a better athlete, so you work on your slides, all that sort of stuff, completely understand it. But to me, the best way to get better at defense is just go guard someone. Go guard someone who's better than you, who's quicker than you, who's going to challenge you, someone who's bigger than you. And as you do that more, you're going to learn you're not going to become better as an athlete. You will become better as an athlete, but more importantly, you're going to start to learn the nuance of getting stops. Okay, I can pick up on how this player likes to play. Now I can adjust the next time that I see them so that, I'm better, right? You're actually learning like the entire skill of playing defense. Defense is a skill just like ball handling, just like shooting, just like scoring, right? To be a great scorer, there's little details about the game that you learn through experience. Defense is the same exact way. So if you're not getting that experience as often as possible, you're probably not going to be a great defender. Okay, so again, that's my take on this. I think there's better uses of time. Is this bad? No. If you do this enough, you'll get better. But at the end of the day, is it the best use of time? In my opinion, especially with a group like this where you have a ton of players, like I just think you can do better things with your time.
You gotta dribble the ball as hard as you can, humanly possible. So dribble harder. Yeah, standing straight up. Okay, stop. Do you think you can bounce the ball harder than that? No. Stand straight up and throw the ball at the ground. Beautiful, beautiful. You see how it's out of control? pounding the ball really, really hard, or working on a ball.
So I'm gonna see
control.
where he
So
goes with
if
this,
you're
but I
going
like
you're already bouncing
I like
the ball
the
as hard
idea
as
of where
you
it's
can, as hard
going.
as you can. This is gonna be easy because we're working at the extreme. You're not gonna dribble like that in a game, right? When the ball goes up here, don't let your wrist go like that. It's gonna be the same as you're dribbling, and your wrist goes like that, and the ball goes that way. So your eyes up, hand always on top of the ball. I know you can dribble harder than that. Just came back from America. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I'm actually a huge fan of this.
You gotta dribble the ball.
So I'll post I'll put like a video of just an example of like what I've done that's kind of similar to this, but I actually love the idea of like working on dribbling at a really high height as hard as you can. And like he said, you're taking it to an extreme. Like you're never going to stand up straight and pound the ball as hard as you can at your head level in a game, right? But if you can control the ball moving that much at that type of speed, with that much distance between where your hand is in the ground, that's really difficult to do. So if you can get good at controlling the ball there, it's going to make it so much easier when we can condense that space. You're dribbling it lower, your body itself is lower, and you might not even be dribbling it quite as hard as you are in this drill right here. So I love everything about this. I think a big part of improving when it comes to any skill, ball handling is probably the one that people struggle with the most with this, is you have to find ways to challenge yourself, right? If there's not some sort of challenge or some sort of risk of failure, I should say, then you're probably not going to get much better past a certain point, right? I think the issue with a lot of stationary ball handling and ball handling in general is that it's too easy and there's never mistakes. If you're doing this drill, you're pounding the ball really, really hard, you're probably going to lose the ball, right? From time to time at least. And if you aren't losing the ball, you probably aren't pounding it as hard as you can right here. So I like the difficulty, the challenge that this provides right here. And I think, again, there's a purpose behind it as well. So big fan.
Every time you dribble the basketball, whether it's a crossover or a regular dribble, or shoot the basketball, you can get a lot more range and power on it by getting a bigger flick of your wrist. So these stretches will help with that. For the first one, have the palms of your hands on the ground with your fingers pointing towards you and just rock back and forth. And then flip your hands around so the backs of your hands are on the ground with your fingers pointing towards you. It's best to do this before a workout. Every time you dribble...
Okay, so I'll approach from a couple perspectives here. I would say two things. First of all, again, going back to what I've been saying, there's better uses of your time than doing this. And the idea that, especially when it comes to shooting, we'll talk ball handling in a second here too, but your range and your power isn't coming from how far back you can bend your wrist, right? Maybe to a certain point, right? If you can't bend your wrist at all, that might have an impact, right? But there's so many other things that go into that. First of all, how strong you are in general, right? If you're 8 years old, you're probably not shooting threes consistently because you're probably not strong enough to, right? Some 8-year-olds maybe, but most probably not because you're just not physically strong enough, right? Once you get to a certain point and you have that strength ability, then it becomes like, okay, now is my energy transfer good? Do I do a good job of transferring energy from the ground through my body into the ball? Is there any sort of sequence or energy leaks in my jump shot where, hey, I extend my hips too early before the ball goes up and I have nothing to give into the ball now? Like that's more of an issue, right? Do I have some sort of weird hand placement? Do I have some sort of weird ball path that's costing me energy, that's making it so I can't shoot from as far? This to me is so far towards the bottom of things that would actually impact your ability to shoot from far away that it shouldn't even really be talked about, because chances are if this is your problem, this isn't going to fix it, right? Same thing with ball handling. Like there's way more things that are going to go into how good of a ball handler you are than how flexible your wrists are in anything like this, right? What I would say is that if you're doing this, go spend your time actually doing stuff that's purposeful, and you'll probably be better because of it right here. I promise you, if you're watching this and you struggle as a shooter or you struggle as a ball handler, this is not the fix. Like this is not what you're missing, right? You need to go get better at those actual skills and not worry about your wrist flexibility quite as much. Again, I'm sure in certain cases, maybe that is a problem, but probably in 99.99% of cases, it's so far towards the bottom of what's important that you would be way better off just focusing on things that matter a little bit more. So shout out my boy Danny. I love this drill, and I think there's a lot that goes into it. I think a big part of being a great shooter is being able to not just make shots, but be able to focus, right? Obviously making shots is a part of it, but I think when we get to the actual what goes into making shots, how well can you focus on the rim when you have someone chasing you, have distractions going on? There's a million things happening in a basketball game. And I think if you have the ability to really lock in on that rim, even though there's somebody who's chasing you, there's someone trying to contest you, all that sort of stuff, that leads to you being a much better shooter in those game situations. And I think it's an important skill to work on. If you watch like the best shooters, especially the ones who are the best when it comes to like contested stuff, like if you watch Caitlin Clark play, she gets her eyes to the rim so early on her shots, and she's so locked in that a lot of times the contests don't even matter because she has the ability to really focus and focus in and dial in on that rim and not allow herself to be distracted by a defender or anything else that might be happening right there. So a drill like this where you're able to work on finding that rim quickly is important. And if you don't have like a partner to do this with, just working on like kind of how Danny's starting right now away from the rim, and then it's working on turning and finding that rim as quickly as possible. And just working that from different spots. Again, we go back to the differential learning and shooting, right? So if I were to do a drill like this by myself, I might say, okay, I'm going to start on the right wing and do that. I'm just handling the ball away from the basket, going to turn and get to a three as quick as possible. And then the next shot, I might go somewhere different, and I might have to get into the shot differently. Maybe the first time I did like a push cross. Maybe the next time I just do like a turn dribble and get out, or I just do like a between the legs and get out, right? But I'm going to change my spot, change the type of three that I'm going to shoot every time. And that's how, even when you're by yourself, you can work on something like this where you can just, be able to find that rim quickly, lock in on it quickly. And the more time that you do that, the more information your brain is going to have in terms of, okay, how far is the rim? How fast am I going? How exactly do I need to release this basketball to give myself the best chance of going in? And that's why you want to find that rim as early as possible. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys learned something as well. Let me know in the comments if you did. Drop a like, subscribe if you're new. Make sure you click the top link in my description down below to get my free Elite Perimeter Scorer program. If you guys are interested in taking your game to the next level, it's going to help you out a ton with all of your skills. If you guys have any videos that you want me to talk about, you want to know my thoughts on it, send me a DM on Instagram at Vision Driven Basketball or on TikTok. I appreciate you for watching. Talk to you soon. Peace.